and touch the rose. Physically, mentally, in every way. Only through love can you understand anything another human being. So it's nothing to do with sex. It is to do with your need to understand and be at one with the other. So Boyce said that every time he was speaking to anybody, there had to be a glass containing a rose between you, him, and the other person. Because he said, if you look at a rose, you begin to have different thoughts. A rose is a rose is a rose. It's a beautiful example of the world of plants.
And how would you relate this love to the art and to your legacy? And
yeah, well, if I do not find love, the dimension of love in a work of art, I know it's not good. All art has to be a balance between intellect, this part, thinking, and touch. You have to make the work, okay? Sometimes you use a pencil or a brush. So it's mental, physical, and from here. This is where love comes from. The head, the hand, and the heart. Okay? If you don't have the three dimensions, element 1, element 2, element 3, you don't have an artwork. Most art now contains probably this. Sometimes it has this and this, but it doesn't have the third. So you must understand Goethe's love of Italy gave him his understanding of the beauty of the Renaissance, of Greece, of Rome. Goethe's love of the battle, his interest in the struggle between good and evil, between bad and good, gave him the idea of Faustus. Okay? So he was expressing his love for Dr. Faustus. You understand? Who was a victim. And in Shakespeare, everything practically in Shakespeare is an expression of love. Practically everything. In Dante, in the great artists. But without an expression of love, you probably have a clever, acceptable work of art, but it will not last. Only the artworks which have love in it, Botticelli, okay, Giotto, let me think, Monet, his love for the water lilies, his love for the garden where the water lilies were, his garden gave the great paintings of the world.
And if you look at J.F. Mattel's book about art and artifice,
Yes.
would you say that if there's love, that is the difference between art and artifice, possibly?
Yes, if you don't have love as an ingredient, you don't really have art. Artifice is artificiality. Means it is not the truth. It is a substitute. So it means if you're playing with a substitute for the truth, it means you cannot communicate with another person. You can play the game, like most professors or teachers in a university play the game, but they don't love their students. They don't respect the students. You must understand that practically everything I've done is about sculpture, because performance art is sculpture. Performance art is born in my experience, in part of the ritual of the Roman Catholic Mass. You understand? The altar. The Protestant concept is you remove the altar and you just have a pulpit.
Yes.
And the pulpit is people going the word, okay? But the altar is a place of sacrifice, ritual, offering, giving, in gratitude, in celebration. An altar, without the concept of the altar, you cannot have an understanding of art. The altar is there, and the most important altar is the altar of the cathedral. And beside the altar is the chair, the throne of the bishop, because from the chair of the bishop you have the truth. It cannot come from the pulpit. It comes from the altar beside the chair. The bishop's chair is beside the altar. So I am saying my love of art originates in my experience as an altar server, watching the priest. The altar is, on one side is the gospel, on the other side is the epistle. The gospel side, the epistle side. In the middle is the little house, the tabernacle, okay, where you have something sacred, which is symbolizing the most important moment in the history of the human race since the Last Supper. The host says to the 12, I'm saying goodbye because I must sacrifice myself for you. They didn't quite understand, but nevertheless, what follows from the Last Supper is the Garden of Gethsemane, the agony in the garden, where he says, I don't want this to happen. I can't really, you know, he almost gives up. But then he does go through the whole process of the judgment, the court of law, facing the power of the world, the power of Trump, the power of the state. But because I see the whole story of the crucifixion, Easter comes after the horrible story of pain and suffering. Okay, because at the heart of everything in Europe is this story. It is the opposite of the story of Islam. And the big problem now is here you have Islam, and here you have the world of Christendom. But we don't really believe. We have become pagan. We cannot fight against Islam because we don't understand what Islam is. Islam is a world of believers. Okay? And we don't believe, I don't know what, we believe in the marketplace. You understand? We believe in materialism. So, the art was something which was nourished by the concept of love and truth. So that's why the art of Renaissance, before even pre-Renaissance, I'm talking about Masaccio, very early Renaissance, certainly Fra Angelico, incredible as truth. And it goes back to this. And this separates me from people who don't believe.